Welcome to the Lamb's High Feast. I'm Father Timothea. This week we celebrate the 5th Sunday of Lent on March 22nd, 2026. You can find today's readings in the show notes. May the Lord who feeds us at his altar bless you through his word.
Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Both sisters say the same thing, but do they mean the same thing? One in mourning looks to a future where Christ can still do anything. That hope is not yet lost. The other, utterly distraught, collapses in despair. Yet both do not truly see what is before them. Christ gives a partial response to Martha, but simply enters into the pain and agony of Mary as he wept. In both cases, he does not actually resolve their mourning nor directly answer their question. He takes them to the tomb. He must leave them in their mourning so that they might be brought to see what he is revealing. As they come to the tomb, Christ orders the cave open and cries, "Lazarus, come out." And as the formerly dead man walks forth from the tomb, what do you see? A delayed miracle that should have been worked earlier and spared the heartache? Further proof that God is fickle and unfair in who he helps or does not. Or do you see the eruption of God into the world, the revelation of divine glory made visible in the midst of a world broken and scarred in the eyes of the flesh? The mourners saw Christ the miracle worker, a man whose role was to fix problems in this world so that they might have a quote-unquote good life and then die like all mortal beings. And so they were frustrated and confused with Christ because with all his power and miraculous ability, why did he not just fix all their problems? Do not our hearts cry out the same? God, if you are so powerful, why do you not fix all the problems of the world? But we forget what Christ said at the beginning of the gospel. This illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. The whole purpose was not actually about Lazarus. It's not even really about us or what God does for us. No, the raising of Lazarus happened only for the glory of God, and so that the Son of God may be glorified through it. The story, the raising, is about who God is and the way in which all creation relates to God. The purpose of the story is to break into the crisis caused by looking at the world through the eyes of flesh and reveal God's presence in the midst of that crisis. This is what St. Paul meant when he spoke about living in the flesh versus living in the spirit. The flesh views the world, the cosmos, as self-enclosed. Everything has to make sense on its own terms and move according to the laws of nature. And so then, God becomes just one more entity, simply a thing in the world, one which has value only insofar as he advances the purposes of this enclosed reality. He is judged by the outcomes he produces in this world, and he is only one among many that could produce a good life. That is, yes, we may say God exists and acts in the world. But if medicine, science, and experts create a good enough life for us, there is no need to think about God any more than I do a sheep herder in Uzbekistan. The Spirit, though, views the world as open and receptive to another, that the world, the cosmos, is incomplete on its own, that another is needed to make sense of it, and that a good life is impossible without the presence of this other. It sees the world as filled and penetrated, sustained by God. Though the Spirit of God is not a part of the world, it nevertheless infuses the world, and so all things radiate the divine for those who have conformed their minds to the Spirit of Christ. And if this is true, that means reality is sacramental. Sacraments and sacramentals do not make things sacred in the sense they remove them from the world, but that they reveal God. They reveal that in God taking on human flesh, rising gloriously from the tomb, he has transformed all creation with his divine light. The sacraments are moments where this divine life breaks into our world, and the sacramentals train us to recognize that this same God is already present in the ordinary things of life. A sacramental worldview sees all reality as finding its fulfillment in pointing to God, in being at the service of God. And it is the exact inverse, in opposition to the person of the flesh, who sees the fulfillment of God's role in reality as in service to reality, in service to us. And this is where the true challenge of our gospel comes from. The crisis of Lazarus' death is not that he was dead. The crisis is that it causes the mourners and us to stand naked before ourselves and how we see God's role in our lives. It forces us into making a judgment upon that role, one which we must decide and which we're even already deciding now. Our first option is to remain in the flesh and continue to interpret our lives like the mourners. Why did you not act sooner, God? Why did you act in this situation and not this other? If you will not fix my problems, then what is your purpose when there are a dozen other people that will? Slowly and surely, God will no longer have any relevance in our lives beyond a finger upon which we heap our anger and resentment. Or at best, he simply becomes a therapeutic entity that helps with specific emotional maladies, but nothing more beyond that. Our second option is to live in the Spirit. That is, to live seeking to see the world infused with God and pointing to God and recognizing that God, while not a part of the world, is necessary for the world to have meaning and importance. We begin to see that even suffering and evil point beyond themselves, that this world reveals itself to be insufficient. We see that God is not here to make our lives comfortable, but to reveal himself and to draw us to know, love, and worship him. As we stand before the tomb, from whence walks a dead man, living once more. What do you see? With which eyes do you look? Do you see a God that has fixed a problem? Or a God that has revealed his glory in the midst of the present world? You must decide for one side or the other, and how you decide changes how you see everything.